his name? Trayvon Martin, say his name. Trayvon Martin, won't you say his name? Sean Bell, say his name. Sean Bell, say his name. Sean Bell, say his name. Sean Bell, won't you say his name? Say his name. 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 Won't you say his name? Michael Brown, say his name. Michael Brown, say his name. Michael Brown, say his name.
90.7 WTCC. Good morning and welcome to the Spoken Word. I'm your host, Bishop Talbert, Swan II, and as usual, we'll be telling it like it is through cultural idioms and nuances that shape the order, ethos, and chaos of the African American experience. Words have their own vitality. They shape their own consciousness and create their own context for interpreting social and spiritual reality. The spoken word contains the power to reshape the landscape of society. 4 minutes past the hour of 9 a.m. And I want to welcome you to another edition of the Spoken Word, coming to you remotely from the man cave. You know, as much as we're in a time of extreme anxiety and ambiguity and uncertainty. We can find some upsides to being quarantined or sheltering in place. We're spending a lot more time with our families, our children. We're able to kind of meditate and focus on the direction of our lives. And for me, one of the big upsides of sheltering in place is I get to get up later on Mondays, and all I got to do is walk from the bedroom down 2 flights to the man cave to do my radio show. I don't have to get in the car. I don't have to fight traffic. None of that stuff. So there's some upsides to that. Listen, tell a friend, tell somebody. The Bishop is on the air right now at 90.7 FM WTCC. You can catch us on WTCCFM.org. I want to thank our remote director, Jim, for making it possible for us to broadcast to you remotely like this. So we can still bring you live broadcasting even while we're going through this period of social distancing. Also, we're live on all of our streaming platforms. Good morning to everybody who's over on Periscope. Double tap that screen and rep your city and rep your town. Let me know where you're coming in from. I need to see some more hearts flying up over there. Not enough. I keep telling y'all, I'm trying to get, I've been stuck at a little over 4 million hearts for a long time. I'm trying to get up to the 5 million mark, and only you guys can help me. I don't scope that much. So on Mondays, y'all got to double tap. Y'all got to double tap. Y'all got to double tap. You got to double tap. You all that kind of stuff so that I can get up there. And then rep your city, rep your town. Let me know where you're coming in from. Also on the Facebook side, do me a favor and share this. Also, do me a favor and let me know where you're coming in from, what city, what town you're coming in from, and let folk know the bishop is on the air. So today, we're going to be talking about COVID 45's lies. If you don't know who COVID 45 is, that's the guy in the White House, right? COVID 45 lies about COVID-19 are killing people. And if you don't believe it, check out all of the crazy people that were out at state capitals with Confederate flags, protesting, ignoring social distancing guidelines, potentially passing coronavirus to other folks because he decided he was going to tweet, liberate this state, liberate that state, because Democrat governors had social distancing orders in place, and Trump wants to reopen the country. It's completely irresponsible from COVID 45 and completely crazy from his followers to decide that they're going to literally put their lives on the line just to stand in solidarity with this madman. I mean, is this guy worth killing yourself or somebody else over? He's literally killing people. We've got over 40,000 dead in America because of his ineptitude. All right. I'm also going to talk about crazy white doctors, Dr. Phil and Dr. Oz. What's wrong with these guys? Absolutely insane. Tell somebody the bishop is on the air, 413-736. I'm sorry, let me go back. I keep giving you the wrong number. That's the number if I was in the station. 413-337-1867. Somebody on my social media, I need y'all to type that in the comment section so folks know exactly where to call in. Matter of fact, let me go over here on Facebook and type that in just so you all know there's a different number. I know many of my long-term fans have the station number. They know it by heart, so may be inclined to call that number. So we need to put this new call-in number in here so you all know exactly. Let me pin that comment right there. There you go. So 413-337-1867 is the number here. I'm going to play. I don't have any radio cards to play because I'm not in the station. I'm going to play some music. This is by my son, Swan. He's got a new EP up now. You need to check that out. Everywhere they stream music, Spotify, Google Play, Amazon, Apple Music, you can find his music. And this one is called Made Me. It's one of my favorites. Stay with me. We'll be right back on the other side of this.
For all the brothers that passed, but more particularly one because it affected me drastically. I remember my sister gave me the call and I was in awe. Matter of fact, it felt the farthest from reality. She seen somebody post RIP with his name and I said I doubt it's the same friend I had since the 7th grade. She said I'ma call his sister and double check and call me back. Said he hanged himself in his room and had been there for days. Initially it didn't hit me, then it clicked and I remembered that I hadn't seen or heard from the homie all week. Wish she had told me what had him feeling lonely and weak. I guess everybody got demons we don't even speak of. Cause I was with him exactly a week before the call. Just under 20, he couldn't even purchase alcohol. My best friend for like 6 or 7 years. I'm not ashamed to say I shedded plenty tears, but it was hard. He was somebody I had plenty memories with. The first person I ever burned any trees with. The worst feeling is knowing that you would leave us in all this grievance without a reason. None of the first people to ever believe in me. When it came down to it, you knew you could call me if you needed me. Cause that information I wouldn't have ever imagined. It's sad thinking about ain't happy that it happened, but it made me. There was plenty times when I thought that it would drive me crazy. But looking back on it now, I see all the drive that it gave me. I learned more about why I am who I am on a daily. I know it may sound crazy, but I'm glad that it made me. Yeah, was born the son of a pastor, he was who I was named after. Matter of fact, I even got some of his characteristics. Both of us got messages for the people. I just do mine with rhythm on beat, he do his on the pulpit with scriptures. Well connected, respected in the community. Ever since I was little, I felt like there was some pressure on me. It started off with little stuff like when my folk brought us to church and then they forced us to get up and say a testimony. Getting older, had to watch how I acted in public, cause people wouldn't hesitate to put that in discussion. Chatting like, isn't that the pastor's kid? I'm like, yeah, that's me, but please don't expect me to be exactly like my daddy. Don't discredit my family for how I am. I'm not a little kid no more, I'm now a man. And I ain't pointing fingers, I'm not trying to do no blaming at all. When it comes to how I came up, I wouldn't change it at all, because it made me. There was plenty times when I thought that it would drive me crazy. But looking back on it now, I see all the drive that it gave me. I learned more about why I am who I am on a daily. I know it may sound crazy, but I'm glad that it made me. Yeah, glad that it made me. Yeah, glad that it made me.
90.7 WTCC. Good morning. Welcome to the Spoken Word. Bishop Talbert Swan, the second with you. Once again, 413-337-1867. 413-337-1867 is the number here if you want to get in on the conversation. So, you know, Dr. Oz is doing this interview on Fox. And you got to look it up. As a matter of fact, it's on my social media. Go to my Instagram or Facebook or Twitter. You'll find it there. This guy literally says in this interview, he's not a virologist or anything like that. He's not even a medical doctor. He says he's making the case for opening the country back up. And this dude says one of the places we can look to open the country back up that he said is very appetizing is the nation's schools. Now, here's his premise for saying it's very appetizing. He says because studies say there would only be a 2 to 3% mortality rate if coronavirus spread and took the lives of these children. Only 2 to 3%. Now here's my thing. Here's my thing. Think about this. If there were if you put 100 children in a room, and had a guy there with a rifle and said, I'm only going to kill 2 or 3 of them, and I'm going to let the other 97 or 98 live. Would you put your child in that room and take the chance that they would be in the 2 or 3%? Or would you say, hell no? I mean, Dr. Oz, why don't you put your grandchildren in that room? Since it ain't no big deal. If we lose 2 to 3% of them to coronavirus, if there's only going to be a 2 to 3% mortality rate. Now think about the logic of that. There are 76 million students in our nation's schools. 76 million. 3% of 76 million is 2.3 million dead kids. So Dr. Oz says it's very appetizing to stop social distancing and send the nation's children back to school because only 2.3 million of them might die. Where, where the hell do they get these people from? Where do these old white doctors come from with this logic? So then you got Dr. Phil. And Dr. Phil says, well, you know what? We lose 45,000 people a year to automobile accidents. You don't shut down the country for that. We lose people who drown. We don't shut down the country for that. Hey, psst. Dr. Phil, can I tell you a secret? You can't catch automobile accident. That's why it's called an accident. Okay, Sherlock? I can't walk out my house and give my neighbor automobile accident and he goes and crashes. You can't pass along drowning. Drowning is not contagious. Okay? I can swim. Drowning is not contagious. My neighbor can't come out his house, have a conversation with me, and then I go drown. But he can give me coronavirus and I can die. I mean, I thought Dr. Phil was smarter than that. What is wrong with these old white dudes? Hey, Dr. Phil. If you're so confident that we should reopen the country, and they're saying this stuff from the comfort of their homes as they shelter in place. If you so confident we should reopen the country, why don't you be the first one to go to a football stadium or to a mall or something like that? I bet you won't see Dr. Phil in one of those places. They're willing to put other people's lives at risk so that the economy can get going and they and their other rich white friends can continue to make money. That's all this is about. We're willing to sacrifice the most vulnerable people, including our children, because, making money is more important than the lives that we will lose to the worst pandemic that this nation has seen in over 100 years. You can't make this stuff up. You cannot make this stuff up. These guys really said that. And here's the thing. I've never been a fan of either Dr. Phil or Dr. Oz, thank God. But many of you, you don't have to raise your hand if you're guilty. Many of you, kind of bought into these dudes. Now their true colors are coming out. No big deal. 2.3 million dead kids. Who cares? And of course, the majority of the public school students in urban centers across the nation are black and Latino kids because of white flight and whites sending their kids to charter schools and private schools, etc., or homeschooling. So most of those 2.3 million dead kids will be dead black and dead Latino kids. So the hell with it. Send the kids back to school. Old white doctor says. Man, you cannot make this kind of stuff up. This is absolutely insane that these guys are really saying this stuff in public. They're really saying this stuff. And here's the thing, they really mean it. Oh, my goodness. So let's talk about 46 minus 1 killing folk with his bad advice. So, in the finest traditions of Abraham Lincoln and Franklin Roosevelt, two of America's most noteworthy wartime presidents, Donald Trump calls himself a wartime president, a coronavirus wartime president. But he accused the state of New York of padding its coronavirus death toll because New York revised its numbers to reflect thousands of people who died of COVID-19 before COVID-19 had a name. Here's the thing. Before the World Health Organization named the disease, there were people dying of COVID-19 across America because it was already spreading. A new report came out that said COVID-19 was spreading in Florida back in January and February, that there was a spike in strange pneumonia deaths in Florida that they now know were COVID-19 deaths. They were calling it pneumonia because they did not have the information on the coronavirus that was spreading, and they didn't have the name COVID-19 to attribute those deaths to. So states are now going back pre-March, looking at the data from January, February, and saying, hey, these deaths were mislabeled. These were COVID-19 deaths. So they're adding those numbers to the total number of deaths. So that 40,000 number is only a number from March through this month, over the last 4 to 5 weeks. And think about that. Trump had the nerve to talk about what a poor job Barack Obama and Joe Biden did on the H1N1 swine flu back in 2009, 2010, and talked about 17,000 people needlessly died. Dude, we lost more than that in a couple weeks' time under your watch. 40,000 people have died in the last 4 weeks. That number is low because it does not include the new estimates that are being given by the states of the deaths that were due to COVID-19 before COVID-19 had a name. Absolutely amazing. So back in the middle of March, when the COVID crisis was first beginning to roar, but could have been better contained, the White House realized it had a shortage of face masks for its staff. That set off this scramble to get masks from Taiwan. And this was after the Trump administration had sent 17 tons of protective equipment, including masks, to China. To China, who he would later blame and start calling it the Chinese virus. His reaction to New York's new numbers, combined with his administration's flagrant hypocrisy about protective masks, about how they have responded to this whole crisis, and his daily efforts to rewrite history of his lethal incompetence to the COVID-19 pandemic, is literally killing people. It's killing people. His efforts are having a galvanizing effect on many of his supporters who are now listening to this carnival barker and deliberately crowding themselves together to protest the various sheltering orders that have been put in place across the states. Now think about this. They are literally arresting black people, brown people in parks. They're literally shutting churches down who are abiding by the sheltering in place guidelines. You literally have churches who have people who are having parking lot services where the preacher is standing out in the parking lot and the parishioners are in their cars. and the police are coming and shutting that down. Yet, over the past few days, when you saw these protests of these white Confederate flag waving Trump supporters, you did not see one law enforcement official shut anything down. Think about that for a minute. Okay? They shut nothing down. Nada. No ting. No ting down. Okay? So there's this protest movement that's now taking hold, targeting states that have extended the social distancing rules, that have closed schools, that have restricted access to large gatherings. And it's being fed by loyalists and political allies of Trump. And these pro-Trump protests, they've been popping up all over the place. Idaho, North Carolina, Oklahoma, and other states that have not yet even felt the full brunt of the pandemic yet. Their time is coming, and these guys are out in large crowds protesting and potentially passing the virus to one another. The most vivid example over the last few days came in Michigan. If you haven't seen it, it's something to behold. Go back and watch it. Literally thousands of right-wing protesters, many of them packing AR-15s. Just think about that for a minute. Even if there was no coronavirus, imagine a bunch of black folk going out to the state capitol packing AR-15s. Imagine a bunch of Latinos going out packing AR-15s. But these Trump supporters waving Confederate flags, carrying AR-15s, swarmed the Capitol building in Lansing to protest Governor Gretchen Whitmer's stay-at-home order. They were out there chanting, "Lock her up. Lock the governor up for trying to protect lives in her state." You can't make this stuff up. And while Trump himself is responsible for this incredibly dangerous burst of misplaced faux patriotism, because all of them mistake their racism for patriotism. His ideological allies have been busy justifying this nonsense. They've been producing misinformation videos. They've been trying to denounce Dr. Anthony Fauci. They had this hashtag campaign going on, "Fire Dr. Fauci," which has gone viral. They've been accusing him and others of being part of the deep state, whatever the hell that is supposed to mean, which is Trump's favorite rhetorical target, the mysterious deep state. And I mean, basically Fauci's telling too much of the truth, basically rebutting everything that Trump has to say. Trump comes out with something irresponsible. Fauci debunks it. Says, "Nah, that ain't the best course of action." And Trump does not like being contradicted. He expects complete loyalty from folk who work for him. And Fauci ain't having it. Fauci's like, "Nah, bruh, my integrity as an infectious disease expert is more important to me than lying for you and potentially causing people to die. I don't want that on my record or part of my legacy. So he's a thorn in Trump's side. Then you got white evangelical churches that have been filling up to capacity with Trump supporters who've been led to believe that the stay-at-home orders that are issued by the state governors are somehow an attack on their constitutional right to gather and worship, and somehow an attack on Donald Trump trying to take the president down. So they've been ignoring stay-at-home orders, and they've been packing the churches out because the blood of Jesus is going to protect them from catching coronavirus. Now, I'm a Christian. I believe in divine healing. I believe in God's intervention in the affairs of man. I also believe in taking care of my body, taking the medicine that my doctor has prescribed for me. I also believe in science. I also believe in the medical profession. I believe that hypertension is the silent killer, so I take my blood pressure medication and I don't say the blood of Jesus is going to save me from it. No, common sense is going to protect you from most things. And we've been streaming our services live, and we've been having 6 people in the sanctuary, essential folks who are there to help us with the finances and with the media, etc. And our parishioners are at home watching us, as most churches where the pastor has common sense and actually loves the people more than he loves himself. Jerry Falwell, president of the evangelical, the Christian crown jewel of the evangelical community, Liberty University, has been ardent and outspoken in his belief that COVID is nothing to fear. It's just the flu. And it's a plot to undermine Trump. That's literally what this dude is telling. The irresponsibility of these white evangelicals is mind-boggling. He's literally telling people COVID-19 is not a big deal. It's nothing to fear. I know there's some people dying. I know 40,000 people are dead, but so what? He's telling them it's no big deal, and ultimately, it's nothing more than a plot against Donald Trump. Donald Trump is their God. These evangelicals don't worship the true and living God. They worship Trump. They say Trump is God's anointed. He's been sent by God. Like Paula White said, saying no to Trump is like saying no to God. And some of you black folk let that crazy lady preach y'all churches. I mean, this stuff is absolutely insane. And then there have been multiple cases of COVID-19 at Liberty University. Okay? You think Jerry Falwell cares? Not at all. A couple of his students have died of it. You think he cares? No, because this is a plot against Trump, even though his students are dying and getting sick. It's a plot against Trump. And even as his most ardent supporters crush themselves together to protest restraints that are necessary to stop the spread of this dreaded, deadly virus, COVID hotspots have begun to bloom in regions that have been to date the geographic core of his support. Watch this very closely. Watch this very closely. As COVID-19 spreads in rural areas, as COVID-19 begins to spread in places like Nebraska and Idaho and South Dakota and other rural farm belt states, as they experience spikes in confirmed COVID cases and as the death toll rises in those states, watch what happens. The question is, will they remain ardent in their support of Trump and continue to defend his response to the coronavirus pandemic? Or will they turn on him? I predict the latter. I predict that they are so cultish, they are so crazed in their notion that Trump is some kind of Messiah sent from God, that even when their own people start dying, even when their spouses and their children and their grandparents start dying on them, they will blame it on something else. They'll say crazy stuff like COVID-19 is God's punishment about homosexuality or abortion and this and that. They'll figure out another way to blame it on some other worldly force and continue to defend Trump. That's how you know these people are crazy. They're crazy. I mean, in Nebraska alone, the state's health department reports a 30% increase in cases over the last 3 days. 30% increase in 3 days. Okay? That is the accelerating curve. We can tell them about it here in Massachusetts because we've had that increase. They've had it in New York. They've had it in Washington State. You know, the so-called curve of cases, they say, is flattening nationally because a majority of people, especially in urban areas, are devoutly complying with the strictures of social distancing. But these hillbillies, these Trumpanzees, these ardent Confederate flag waving, Trump is sent by God folks, they don't believe in social distancing. And so it remains to be seen what's going to happen in their areas. There are about 30,000 new cases of coronavirus every day right now. 30,000 new cases. Okay? I mean, that's horrifying to contemplate. Even if the number is no longer accelerating, 30,000 new cases a day? That's horrifying, ladies and gentlemen. What happens when this thing starts to burn through rural America, the base of Trump's support? It's already begun. And because of all those Trump supporters standing shoulder to shoulder at nations' capitals, in churches, shouting their defiance of science and their conspiracy theories about the deep state into the virus-polluted air, it's only going to get worse. It's going to get worse in the short term. It's going to get worse in a matter of days if this pattern holds. and there's no reason to expect otherwise. You are going to see some news about these folk, okay? Mark my word. These folk who were out protesting, you're going to hear the news about them getting sick and dying. And they have nobody to blame. Not the deep state, not the swamp, not the Democrats, not the immigrants. They have nobody to blame for any of this but themselves. Nobody but themselves. I gotta wonder what makes somebody that crazy to literally risk their lives on behalf of this man who doesn't care anything about them. 413-337-1867. 413-337-1867. If you want to chime in on the conversation, definitely put your comments. If you're streaming on social media, love for you to put your comments in. And I do go back and I read your comments. Some of y'all are funny. But this is what's happening in our nations, ladies and gentlemen. The match has already been lit. In 2 weeks, mark my word, in 2 weeks, these rural areas that has lost so many of their hospitals, thanks to decades of conservative budget cuts, Republican budget cuts, they're going to be locked into the same nightmare you've seen in urban areas like New York and New Jersey and Connecticut and even here in Massachusetts. They're going to be in the same boat. They're going to be dealing with what we've been dealing with since March, and they're going to have far less medical infrastructure that's going to be prepared to confront it. And so that begs the question, how many Trump voters are going to die between now and November? How many who listen to their president and his Fox News mouthpieces, who jammed the Michigan Capitol steps, who jammed the evangelical mega churches on Easter because the president said it was safe? How many of them are going to be dead by June? How many are going to be dead by June? Good morning, caller.
Yes, good morning. I'm going to weigh in a little bit on the topic that you're talking about this morning. And people have to realize, of course, when I call in a lot, this guy, number 45, is all about separation. And when you get separation and these big evangelical churches falling through, who you think, and anybody think that they're trying to leave out, is the black people and the brown people. And, of course, that's been going right through history. And people have to realize these guys will roll over everything out there to get to you and I. And once they're at you and I, that whole control and that empathy about who's dying, it really don't care. As long as you and I are getting wiped out, and some of them are getting wiped out in return, and those ones out there falling behind number 45 have to realize they're right in the mix also. And when it comes to totals, they're going to be disposed of way, way more than we are. So I just want to kind of have people that think about that and realize that we got to be all in this thing together. And if we're not in it together, we're all going to perish the right together. So thank you very much, sir, for your time.
All right. Thank you for your call. 413-337-1867. No, the caller is absolutely right. As long as they're watching the news and the news is telling them people are dying in Jersey and New York and the urban parts of Massachusetts and in Chicago and Detroit in these urban centers where black and brown people live, as long as the news keeps telling them 81% of the deaths in Illinois are black people, 75% of the deaths over here are black people, they think they can't be touched by this. And that's why they pack the mega churches, they pack the state capitals, because there's still this thought process that somehow, some way, the inferior biological structure of black people makes them more susceptible to this disease, and it's going to kill them, and somehow my whiteness is going to protect me. But you know, white people are dying too, ma'am and sir. Yes, they are. And like I said, it's going to be a wake-up call. You mark my words, in the next 2 weeks, when you see this thing spread throughout rural America, when in Nebraska and Idaho and all that, when you see these white folks dying, these protesters, these Confederate flag waving folk dying between now and June, and I think quite a lot of them are going to succumb to this. This is the very essence of tragedy and farce. The President of the United States has labored mightily to convince his people that this is all some kind of ruse to keep him from being reelected, some kind of a hoax. And millions of those people have swallowed it whole. They have completely bought into it. And tens of thousands of them are going to die because of their stupidity. That's real talk, y'all. This had nothing to do with being against them because of their political ideology. This is just real. This is just common sense. If you walk into a fire, there's a high probability that you're going to get burned. That's real. It's real. I mean, this is a snake eating its own tail in real time. While the snake handler in chief in the White House cheers it on and encourages it. All for political expediency. He doesn't care how many of them die, because all he's going to do is blame it on somebody else. I mean, this dude is literally trying to blame Barack Obama for, you've been the president 3.5 years, you still blaming Obama for stuff? He got rid of the pandemic response team 2 years ago. Somehow it's Obama's fault. He didn't stockpile. Literally 5 years ago, Barack Obama predicted almost to the day that we may have a pandemic such as the Spanish flu, the 1918 pandemic. He said, who knows, 5 years from now, and we've got to be prepared for it. Literally predicted it almost to the day. And he had experience in handling the H1N1 swine flu pandemic. You think Trump listened to anything he or anyone else had to say? Oh, who knew? Nobody knew there'd be a pandemic. I mean, and here's the thing. This guy can say one thing on Monday, something else on Tuesday. His crazy supporters will believe what he said on both days. They'll believe that mysteriously in 24 hours it changed. 1 minute it's a hoax. Another minute, nobody knew there was going to be a pandemic. The next minute, oh, I knew this was going to be a pandemic. And they'll agree with all three positions. He can have 4 or 5 positions on the same subject, and they will defend all 4 or 5 of them. This is a cult, ladies and gentlemen, a dangerous cult of 63 million people in our nation. It's insane. It's complete insanity. I've never seen anything like it. I mean, to me, the reality, my wife and I were watching last night, the story of David Koresh and the Branch Davidians, and we started talking about various cult leaders, Jim Jones, et cetera, et cetera. That's Donald Trump. Now you may not see it like that, but there's striking similarities. I mean, when he said back when he was running for president in 2015, when he said, "I can go out on Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody in the head, and I wouldn't lose one voter." We laughed at it then. We thought he was just, in his regular old braggadocious way, being his regular old narcissistic, crazy self. But now you know what he was saying is absolutely true. That's how cultish his followers are. He literally can. There is no doubt in my mind now that he literally can go out on Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody in the head, and his followers will justify it. His followers will say why that person deserved to die, why they deserved to be shot in the head, and why the President of the United States was completely justified in what he did, and he's still God's man, and he's still anointed by God. This is the level of insanity that's going on in our country. This is the level of craziness that these people have. This is why they are dangerous. This is why, for a long time, I was saying about Democrats, you all continue to take black people for granted. And you should stop trying to scare us with 4 more years of Trump if we don't vote for you, because we've been through worse than Trump. And I was completely sympathetic to black folks who were saying, I'd rather not vote at all, or I'll vote third party. I won't vote Democrat if Democrats don't have an agenda for black people. I'm not going to be scared into voting for them because of Trump. I was sympathetic to that narrative. But I've come to a point in this pandemic of saying that Trump is too dangerous. His followers, his cultish following is too dangerous for us to go that route. And that I will have to hold my nose and swallow my pride and do whatever is necessary to make sure this guy does not get reelected. If he has 4 more years, he's going to completely change the trajectory and the landscape of America. It will be unrecognizable if we have another Trump term. His callousness, his disregard for human life during this pandemic says he's far worse than just your average run-of-the-mill racist. That he's more dangerous than George Bush or Ronald Reagan ever were. There's not a shred of humanity in him, not even for the people who support him. He cares about no one but himself. And whoever dies to further his aim, oh well. He's far too dangerous to get another term. And we've got to do everything. And I know I've been one of the main ones saying that black people should not have to choose between Satan and Lucifer, the lesser of two evils, that we're tired of hearing that narrative. Vote for us and we'll address your issues after we regain the White House. I get it. I completely understand why people are disenchanted with the Democrat Party. But this guy is too dangerous to leave in office. I mean, we've got 40,000 dead because of his ineptitude in a 4-week span. We can't afford, and they're talking about a vaccine is still a year away. We can't afford to leave this man in office. Can't afford. Some of his supporters used to say and hold signs that said, "We lived through 8 years of Obama. You'll live through 8 years of Trump." Yeah, not so much, huh? Whole bunch of folks ain't gonna live through 8 years of Trump. Whole lot of 40,000 people didn't live through 4 years of Trump. And there's gonna be thousands more who won't live through 4 years of Trump. That's how real this thing is. I got 2 minutes left in the program for those who are listening on WTCC FM, those who are listening to our 4,000 watts. 2 minutes left in the program. Those who are streaming, I'll continue on for a little bit after we've signed off of the radio station, so keep it right there, locked in. Share this stream. Those of you who are on YouTube, I need you to like. I need you to hit that thumbs up, and I need you to subscribe. Those of you who are on Periscope / Twitter, I need for you to share this and double tap that screen. Send those hearts up. Those of you on Facebook, I need for you to share this. Hit that like, love, whatever emoji you want to hit right there. Tell somebody. Start a watch party. I need y'all to start a watch party on Facebook. And those of you on the gram, send those hearts up in the air and give me your comments, your conversation and your comments. I'm definitely want to hear what you have to say. I'm going to play a little bit of music as I sign out of WTCC FM. I want to thank once again Jim, our remote director, who is making sure that we go live over the air. And all of you who are listening on WTCC FM, thank you for listening. And if you want to continue with me, log on to social media and catch me on one of my streaming sites. And until the next time I talk to you and you talk to me, always remember, God loves you, and so do I. All right, thank you, Jim. All right, y'all. So I'm back on the air. Well, back with you guys, at least.